Okay, welcome to SEO Hangouts with Josh Paszynski. The date is, what is the date? Tuesday the 26th of March. So I'll be reporting on stuff that still happened March 1st and forward, and I'll catch up on my backlog. I shouldn't call it SEO Hangouts anymore because my Google Hangouts is broken for some reason on my Mac. I can't hang out on Google anymore, so I'm recording this straight to YouTube and then I'll post it on the rest. So I apologize for those people who want to hang out. If you still have questions you want to ask me, by all means, email me. My email is joshpaszynski@gmail.com, or hit me up on Twitter @joshpaszynski, or on Google+, Josh Paszynski, or on this YouTube channel, which is /jbachins, JBACHYNS. You can ask me any SEO questions you want, and I'll answer them. Unfortunately, I can't really hang out because for some stupid reason this thing's broken. I have to upgrade to the latest version of Mac OS, whatever it is, or something. So I should now, until I can hang out again, I should probably call it SEO Diatribe or SEO Rants by Josh Paszynski. So there you go. Okay, so very interesting. I have so much stuff to report on. I have pages and pages of it still here. Very interesting stuff that's been coming out, leaked by Google recently, and some experiments I've been doing myself. So I'm just going to jump right to it. So. John Mueller and Maria, I don't know her last name, sorry, hangout from March the 1st. They leaked a whole bunch of good information and mentioned a whole bunch of good information. And also, then I'll get to the SMX West conference later on as well. So the first thing is this, is that I asked the question because some of my clients, although it's pretty easy to find the bad links, for some of my clients who went a little crazy with their black hat linking before they came to me, and have like 95% bad links, we keep, disavowing the worst of the worst and then doing a reconsideration request. Now, for most of my clients, this works, but some clients who went really off the deep end with black hat links, sorry if any of you guys are watching, but it's the truth. I apologize. It's just not the way it is anymore. You can't do that anymore. If they really went off the deep end, we keep trying, because I don't want to disavow all the links. But this has been going on for 5 or 6 months for like maybe two of my clients. So I'm trying to think, well, maybe we should have just disavowed all the links to start off with. And so I asked a bunch of questions related to this. So first thing I asked was, I asked in most cases, is the Webmaster Tools links that you report enough for most websites? And John Mueller reported yes. And I quote, in most cases, the Webmaster Tools links is enough, end quote, to get the site to give you all the links you need to see and to disavow the bad ones. So this is very interesting. This implies a number of things. One, this implies that that Mueller thinks that Google is finding the majority of the type of spam links that people are making these days. It's interesting to think that that's what they think. So my tests show that they are pretty darn good at it, and they can find, if you've done a really poor job at your spam linking, they can find upwards of 90% of them. So you have to get much more clever for those people who are using black hat tactics. You have to get much, much more clever the way you're doing it. Not only in terms of how you're making a link, where you're making a link, but also what you're pointing the link to on your site. If you want more information about that, I'd certainly be happy to consult for you. But the long and the short of it is that everything has to be natural looking. I don't care if you're doing white hat or black hat or polka dot hat, whatever hat you think you're doing, it doesn't really matter because these are arbitrary subjective distinctions. All the linking you're doing has to be natural looking. If you get 1,000 donated purely organic links that you did not solicit for at all in any shape or form, but if they all look spammy, you're going to get hit with spam links anyway, right? So it all has to be natural looking. And so he goes on further to say, or I think it was Maria actually said, that that when you're doing a reconsideration request, that, and I quote, we take into account that the Webmaster Tool links are limited, end quote. So that was interesting. So that means that when you're doing a reconsideration request, it might not be of course, there's a number of things you have to do when you're doing a reconsideration request. You have to show good faith, right? You have to make them think that you're never going to spam again. You have to say you fired your previous SEO, you're never going to do that again, want to show good faith, saying I tried, I didn't have, say I don't know anything, I don't know anything about my website, I didn't make the links, some unscrupulous SEO who said he could rank me at the top, did all this, I have no idea what these links are, so then they won't blame you for not knowing what the bad links are. And then you say, I have removed all the bad links I saw on Webmaster Tools that I could find that looked spammy to me, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, and I can't afford any other link programs, my business is decimated, please help me, I promise I'll never do any black hat again. Please, if I haven't disavowed enough links, because they won't let you go. You can cry, you can bleed into the actual message box. They will not take your penalty away unless you have disavowed a certain proportion of links. I don't know what it is. I asked John Mueller, I tried to find out what the actual proportion is. Do we have to disavow 80% of the ones they think are bad? Do we have to disavow 90% of the ones they think are bad? He wouldn't answer that. He didn't even seem to understand the question, and he kind of waffled. So that means there is a certain percentage that he knows, but he's not allowed to say. Usually, in my opinion, that's what that means. Whenever he waffles on something, or he gets tongue-tied and tries to come up with some other bullshit answer. I apologize, I'm probably not allowed to swear on YouTube. Warning, disclaimer, swear, disclaimer. So you say, I've removed all the bad links I saw with Webmaster Tools, I can't afford any other link programs, my reconsideration request, help me please, send me some examples of links if I haven't gotten all the links, that kind of thing. So, that's the kind of tone you need to take for a reconsideration request. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, so that's the end of all the stuff that was in that hangout that I thought was fairly interesting to share. Now, skipping forward a week to SMX West, which was a conference that was in the first or second week of March. Now, there's a lot of interesting stuff that came out of that conference, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't go to this one. I've been saving up to go to SMX Advanced in June, because that's usually where the more juicy tidbits of SEO knowledge comes from. But this one had tons of juicy bits of SEO knowledge. So, Matt Cutts, I'm sure you've heard of him, and Dwayne Forrester, the Cutts equivalent at Bing, the lesser man's Cutts, the poor man's Cutts, if you will. Just kidding, Dwayne's a great guy. They had kind of like a question and answer thing that they did, and it was fascinating the stuff that came out. So, for example, I said this before, but I'll say it again. They both said that for Bing and for Google, that social is a ranking factor. They said this point blank, and that, and I quote, it has the final say in rankings. The final say in rankings. Now, they say it wasn't as strong a signal as, say, links, but it had the final say in rankings, quote unquote. So I tweeted back, because I wasn't there, so I'm getting this reports from tweets from people I know. So I tweeted back to the person who tweeted this to me, and I said, what does that mean exactly? And he responded exactly as it sounds, that in their algorithms, social is kind of like a check balance, right? Kind of like it will verify what they think the other signals are finding. So this kind of ties back into what I was saying in my last video, where SEO is, you guys have to get this out of your head. SEO is not about just throwing links at it like crazy and throwing more signals at it. It's about checks in different boxes, right? You need a check in the link box, you need a check in the social box, you need a check in the on-page content box. You need to have your H1s optimized, you have your titles optimized, you have good click-through rate, do you have good time on page, are users enjoying your site? You need checks in all those boxes, because Google knows it's far too easy to spam one box. So they're relying on all the boxes to get a broad spectrum signals to verify that this site is actually of quality and people are enjoying it and it's safe for them to serve in their SERPs. That's how you have to think of SEO in 2013. Not only that, but Cutts did also say, and Dwayne Forrester apparently agreed with them, that, and I couldn't believe this, and I'm not exactly sure how this works, so I'm just going to read it out and I'll try to explain what I think it means, that dirty links, spam links, bad links, negative SEO links, are likely being ignored when pointed to sites with high authority. Dirty links are likely being ignored when being pointed to sites with high authority. Forrester said yes, Cutts was nodding and smiling. That's exactly what happened, according to the tweets that I got. So, what the hell does that mean? I always thought that their PageRank algorithm, and it's pretty well known and widely known, that the PageRank algorithm works on a threshold, right? So I would think that if you have 90% good links pointing at you, but 10% suspect links pointing at you, they'll simply devalue those links, unless those links run afoul of the Penguin algorithm, or they're way over optimized, or some other algorithm that looks for spam links specifically. And then they might start negatively affecting you, or they bubble up to the manual spam team, and the manual spam team will look at them and just devalue them, or maybe give you a manual action, but a granular one, because there's only 10%. But that's not the way the tweet was worded. And if the tweet is accurate to the question that was asked, so I apologize I wasn't there, I can't give you a first-hand report, but it's something worth considering. Either way, it's worth considering. If it's true that dirty links are likely ignored for high-authority sites, when pointed at high-authority sites, so like what, page rank 6, 7, 8? Like what's a high-authority site? I don't know what that means. They're ignored entirely. That could mean exactly what I just said, right? They're ignored entirely. Anyway, either way, this is a lovely bit of information for people who want to do black hat SEO. Because what that means is you realize that you can make a high authority site and nuke the hell out of it. Just send all the, you don't have to do good nuking, you could do bad nuking, or whatever spam link you want, bulk links you want. You can send all the black hat links you want to it, and it's going to be like a CO2 scrubber. It's going to scrub all the spam out of those links, and only the links that Google didn't catch or thinks maybe are still good are going to get collected there, and the good PageRank juice from that high authority buffer site is then going to link to you, and it will scrub all the bad link juice. And so you'll just have the pristine link juice pointing to your site. So I repeat, you get a high authority buffer site. So maybe a WordPress blog, maybe your Facebook profile, maybe your Twitter profile, maybe your Pinterest profile. Those are pretty high authority sites, I think. Send all the crap links to them you like. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to be careful with it, right? Even though like I say you should when you're doing black hat linking, you don't even have to be careful, because you can never get negative SEO this, probably, if this is true. And then it links back to, oops, sorry, the camera's backwards, your site. And it should scrub all the spam linking, and you should get the positive linking for your site. So that's a lovely bit of information they presented there. Okay, next. So the next hangout with Mr. Mueller and Maria, the bad merchants algorithm. So what is the bad merchants algorithm? The bad merchants algorithm is this algorithm that Google wants to put out to save people, these white knights of the internet that Google is, to save people from unscrupulous retailers online. And what it is, John Mueller was nice enough to leak to us and let us know, was sentiment analysis. He didn't tell us in so many words in this hangout, but he did mention it in previous hangouts, that the bad merchants algorithm is sentiment analysis. So what is sentiment analysis? Well, the sentiment of one's post, whether they're thinking positively or negatively about the thing that they're linking to or talking about. This is the sentiment of the post, and they're going to make an algorithm to try and detect the sentiment of a post. And so that means that if you had 9,000 links pointing to you from a site saying that you're the crappiest site ever and an unscrupulous retailer and don't ever go to this site, it's terrible, those links were counting positively towards you. They were donated organic links and were probably helping you rank. Now, they're going to start counting as bad links towards you. As I understand how this bad merchant algorithm is going to work, according to what John Mueller leaked. So he said if 90% bad sentiment links are pointing towards you, this is not so good. That's what he said. Paraphrasing slightly, but it's more or less almost a direct quote. So I infer by that it's a simple threshold. So if you have out of 100 links, if 50 of them or more say that you're terrible, a terrible merchant, or a terrible, scummy dealer, whatever, blah, 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 that's not going to, either those links are not going to be counted, or at some threshold, at some point, those links aren't going to be counted. Like if it's 60 or 70%, then they're going to start taking a portion of those links back, or something like that. Anyway, it's going to hurt you. So, there's all kinds of things that this means that we need to think about. One, you need to be checking to see what kind of mentions and co-citations you have. Bear in mind, this is not even backlinks. This also applies to co-citations. So if there's 1,000 blog posts out there that don't even link to you, but they mention your website in text, and they say you're crappy, you're unscrupulous, blah, 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 in the same sentence or paragraph where the website shows up, that's still going to affect you. That, code citation does work in their algorithm. I have a test case. I mentioned that last video. So, one, you gotta try and watch this. Now, Rand Fishkin, being the clever dude he is, already knew this was coming probably with his Google contacts. And his company, SEO Moz, has already made a sentiment analysis ranking tool. I can't remember what he calls it, but it's part of their, you have to be a pro member to get access to it. So you might want to become a pro member for a month just to check it out. It's not, I'm sorry, Rand, or anyone from SEO Moz, if you're watching this, it's not the best tool yet. It only shows you mentions of your brand or a certain keyword 4 weeks back so far, last time I checked, which was about a week ago. But I'm sure they'll beef it up, and I'm sure you'll be able to get like months of data of what people are mentioning about your tool. And it's probably also they'll probably also want to use it for branding, measuring branding initiatives, so that SEOs can sell that to clients and say, hey, look, you've got all these extra mentions, all these extra mentions online. People are talking. There's a lot of buzz about your brand. It doesn't matter if you're getting links back, and that will correlate loosely to traffic coming to your site. So that's probably what it was originally meant for, but it's great also for this. So you can go and check, anytime. So if you sell red apples, or you got super herbal pills or whatever, type in super herbals into this. That's your brand name. Type it into this tool, and it'll show you all the mentions, and you can go back and find the actual URLs where your stuff was mentioned, and you can see if it's a positive or a negative mention. You should be able to export the data and start working with it that way. And then you can start fighting this negative branding that once they release this algorithm is going to hurt you. The next thing we need to consider in this sense then is negative SEO. They just blew the roof off of negative SEO. Now, Google's not stupid. They realize that this can be gamed, right? And so when asked about it, Cut said at this conference, Cut said that they're going to be using other signals, not all that spammable, end quote. They're using other signals, that are not all that spammable. So I tried to think to myself, what could that possibly be that's not that spammable? Well, they're going to be looking for a diversity across sites. If you have 10,000 bad mentions on a single site, well, that's pretty easily spammable. But if you have 10,000 bad mentions across 10,000 sites, that's not so easily spammable. So diversity will probably be a factor. Whether a login is required is going to be a factor. So these scam sites that you can publicly post, they probably won't pay much attention to those. But if you have to have a login to do it, they probably will, provided they can get access to the data. Provided it's not a walled garden like behind a login. And don't forget, Google has OAuth deals with tons of companies. If they want the data, they'll get access to it. If there's some kind of moderation, right, on the comments, well, they'll probably rank those comments higher. If the domain registration age, if the domain has just been registered for a year, then they may not take that company so seriously. But if the domain's been around for 12 years and it's registered for another 5, then they might start to take the comments on that scam book site more seriously, right? The site quality itself, if it's been hit by Panda itself, the site quality itself, if it's spammy, the spelling and the grammar of the site, the usage metrics of the site, whether or not there is an educational or governmental official site, the authority of the site, the page rank of the site, and the amount it's used, the traffic, the Alexa rank. They wouldn't use Alexa rank, but that's the equivalent that you can use to see how much traffic the site gets. In the tech field, anyway. Don't forget, Alexa is skewed to the tech field. So, that's just off the top of my head, but it makes sense. It's logical. Those are some of the other signals they can use that are not that spammable for this bad merchant algorithm. So, that's something that you need to pay attention to, both for negative SEOing and for protecting your site. And in terms of negative SEOing, well, what can you do? Well, it's very simple. You get a program like SE Nuke or Scrapebox, and you don't even have to make any links. You just auto-post thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of articles talking about how your competitor is complete crap, and make sure your sentiment's very clear in the sentence, in the paragraph, and you put just a text link, www.mycompetitor.com. There's not to be a link to them. Don't make a link to them because they actually could count it and it could actually help them for a while. And just say it's terrible, blah, 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 I hate it. You can even double down when you're doing this, and in another paragraph say, but this site's great, this site's wonderful, they offer a much better service than the previous. Here they are, and you can make a link to your site. Of course, with all the rules and care you must take in doing black hat SEO in the first place. Or if you don't risk black hat SEO, well, fine, then don't. You cannot possibly hurt yourself by making tens of thousands of blog pages. The irony is that it's a gray area whether it's even against their terms of service, right? You can make as many blog pages as you want, right? If they are so aggressive to spider them and then to count them as negative signals against the poor sites listed there, well, then that's their problem. So you better be watching what mentions are against you, because this is going to be one heck of a way to try and negative SEO someone. Even if Google's clever enough to make it so it doesn't work, or they realize it's so easily spammable, they give up on this bad merchant algorithm, or maybe they just buy Scambook and that'll just be the only site they use or something like that. They could do something like that. But people are still going to try. It might actually, so people could actually read some of these pages and it could hurt you, right? So I would be watching that negative branding and that reputation management. Okay, a couple other things that were mentioned in this 11th of March hangout. Another thing that was mentioned is very interesting, that Panda does work on a threshold. So you wouldn't, John Mueller of course wouldn't admit what the threshold is, but 50% I think is a good guess, right? So 50% of your pages are garbage text, duplicated text, nonsense text, spun text, text with bad grammar, and or have bad usage metrics. It's a landing page, people come on it, they look around for a second, they go, oh, this is gross, for whatever reason, or it's not providing the information they want, they don't like the design, or it's too slow, or the information they want is too far down, they don't want to scroll, and they bounce back to the search engine page, and they click, and the most important part, they click another result. And if that happens too much, those are the pages that are going to affect you for Panda, as far as I can tell from my research, and it's going to be bad for you anyway. All those things are going to be bad, even if it's not part of Panda. It's maybe I got the algorithms wrong. They're part of different algorithms, but it's still all bad, right? That's not good for you, for your site, for its ranking. And John Mueller says that Panda works on a threshold. So if that happens to 50% or more of your sites, he said, and I quote, 300 out of 305 pages is bad, end quote. Okay, well, great. Well, so what is that, like 99%? Okay, so I'm sure it's less than 99%. I'm sure that if you have 50% or higher, that's when you need to start worrying about Panda. So whether or not Panda has actually hit you, that's when you need to start worrying that this is going to start harming your site. Harming your site. You'll be fighting with your site. You'll be harming your site. And in fact, it could even be less. It could be so granular that, okay, 20% of your pages fall into that category, so they just stop ranking well, right? So what if those are like your best earning pages? Well, then your rankings, it's not going to be proportional, right? If those are pages that no one cares about, then you're not even going to notice it in your rankings. Your rankings may go down a bit, or you'll notice if you're looking at your analytics, your image impressions go way down, but your search impressions kind of stay the same. That's because those pages that no one cared about, Google was still taking the images off them and serving them for image search, right? But now that they're low quality, that can be the reason why, because sometimes you see this in analytics. You see the image search goes up or down. You're wondering why. Because Google will still take images to rank for image search on pages that they think are low quality. Until they get to a certain low quality, and then they won't show them at all. They'll be like, oh, we have better options for these images, right? This is what John Mueller has mentioned in the past, that their quality algorithms work for images as well, but not as much. So that can also account for why you see kind of fluctuations in the images. And so anyway, it doesn't really matter. If you're looking at your statistics and you know your site, and you know that 20% of it is just garbage crap that your CMS puts out for some reason or something like that, deal with it, because it's going to eventually start affecting your ranking. It's going to be like a boat anchor holding you back. Okay, and speaking of user satisfaction, so that's probably the last thing I'll mention today, because we're almost at the half-hour mark. I try not to make these videos too long for you. The last thing, speaking of user satisfaction, John Mueller also did mention that it's compared to all other pages. So this is a relative metric as well. I asked, is there a standard that, they follow, or is it compared to other pages? And so that means that the user metrics that they're tracking, user satisfaction, whatever that is. Now, I believe, and many other SEOs believe, and have for many years, that they go to a SERP, they click on a result, so that's your site, they go to your site, they go, oh, I don't like it for the reason I just mentioned, they go back, they click something else. That's how they track user satisfaction. That's how they track searcher satisfaction. They searched for XYZ, they clicked on site ABC. Did site ABC satisfy searcher for search query XYZ? Yes or no? And they collect the statistics. So if site ABC does worse, people bounce and click something else and retry more than site alpha, beta, gamma, then alpha, beta, gamma might start to move up in the rankings, right? They have to have about comparable links and comparable social signals, but that's how you can get this Google dance, right? And alpha, beta, gamma will start ranking instead. And that's comparative. All the pages on your site and all the pages on everybody's site. It's all calculated algorithmically. So, whether user satisfaction is part of Panda, I don't know for sure, of course. Only Google does. But I do know, and they've mentioned like a million times since September, and I've asked, and they've specifically said, user satisfaction is a metric they are using in ranking, direct ranking, except they always say it's not on a daily basis. They have to aggregate the signals over time. Well, that's what Panda does. I wonder if Panda's involved. And that they make those changes on a semi-regular basis after they aggregate the signals at a higher level, quote-unquote, from the last hangout. That was just on the 25th. So, yeah, so I mean, you have to pay attention to that. You have to pay attention to your click-through rates. You have to pay attention to the time on page. You have to pay attention to your exit percentages, your bounce percentages for your landing pages. You have to pay attention to the time on page. You have to pay attention to the keyword they came to the page on, and you have to make your best guesstimate, because you don't have Google's data. This is the only data you have from Google Analytics. Was the searcher satisfied? Did they find what they're looking for on this page? And if 90% of your search traffic is bouncing under 5 seconds, unless you're running a lottery or a weather site, I think you're probably in trouble. I think they probably want to. I think your users would probably want to stay on the site longer if they're interested or reading your information or buying your products or services. Okay, and the last thing actually is a little tidbit here. I have a scribble here I forgot to mention. Speaking of all that I just mentioned, I also had a client that had a title that was, like 256 characters long, almost as long as you can make it, with every single make and model of a certain kind of car engine or something like that in their title. And so I asked, can you do this? Everyone knows the general SEO rule of thumb is that your titles are only supposed to be 60 characters. Of course, that's not true. The titles are only supposed to be 412 pixels or so, or something along those lines. I can find the exact number of pixels if you want. In fact, I can send you a website that you can use to calculate it. It's a pretty cool website. But that's for readability purposes. You can make the readable portion, that 412 pixels or whatever it is, and that's 60 characters as a rough rule of thumb. And then after that, you can put like a soft return in the tag, and then you can have a bunch of other keywords in there. And if you structure it just right, not only does Google help you rank for that keyword as long as it's in the title and in the text as well. You can't just put like boobs in there and like a bunch of porn words like you could in the old days and it'll make you page rank. It's got to be a one-to-one correlation. It's got to be about what that page is about. But apparently you can spam the titles, and I asked John Mueller if this is a problem. They're like, no, not really. And I also have an experiment to show that that's probably still okay, or at least the experiment is about a year, maybe a year and a half old now. But SEO Moz did it, and they spam their titles full of keywords, and they started ranking for stuff they weren't ranking before that they put in the title. Now, here's the caveat: you cannot repeat keywords in the title. It could be different keywords. Like if you have a bunch of different model numbers you want to rank that page for, which is what my client did, and it seemed to work. That you can do as long as the page is about those model numbers. It has it lower on down the page somewhere, and you're not repeating the keywords in the title. That Google has specifically stated do not do. That is Panda bait. So it's interesting how you can play with this, right? So if you play with it a certain way, Google will rewrite the algorithm a certain way. And if you leave the part you want to see 60 characters and then have all the other model numbers down there, and then you have like the model number, get the best deals for model number, and then, or get the best deals here, colon, and then have all your model numbers underneath. And then if they're looking for model number XYZ92, Google, and they type that in, and if Google wants to serve your page, they'll probably take that part of the title, get the best deals here on these engines, colon, and then they'll put the relevant model number. I've seen them do stuff like that. So they'll auto-generate an actual useful title, both for click-through rate and for your SEO, that you can kind of manipulate a little bit. Dare I say, game. So, and that's on-page SEO, which is supposed to be white hat. Of course, ignoring all the cloaking and Doria pages and stuff like that. Okay. So, that's all the stuff I want to talk about today. We're at the 30-minute mark. If you have any other questions, or want to know anything about SEO, of course, you can always contact me. Again, my email is joshbrzezinski@gmail.com, or at Twitter, Josh Brzezinski, and you can find all my other YouTube videos here on YouTube at /jbachins, JBACHYNS. And apologies to Matt Cutts, we had no time for him today. I'm hoping one day he'll actually show up. I guess, but he doesn't have a hangout, so he can't. I'll have to get that fixed. So, that's all the SEO information I have for today, and I hope to see you guys next week, and good luck in the service. So we'll see you later.